I've been on there. I go on there a lot. I've only ever actually bought two things off of eBay. Actually, the microphone that I'm using, we bought off eBay about 6 years ago. And the soundboard that we use, we bought off of eBay about 6 years ago. In fact, I didn't know what to do. And so at the time, Benny and Cindy had an antique shop. And so they had stuff on eBay all the time. And so I went to her house and said, how do I buy something off of eBay? And in fact, she had to help guide me through how to do that. But I look on eBay a lot, and there's a lot of things I'd like to maybe someday get off of eBay or whatever. But if you go on eBay a lot, you notice that there are several key phrases on eBay, and those phrases sort of give us a real insight to who we are as a nation, who we are as a people, who we are as individuals. Maybe if you've been on there, you've seen these words. One of them is a reserve. A reserve is something, it's sort of like your bottom line price. You know, you put something on there to be sold, to be auctioned off, but you don't want to get ripped off. And so rather than just trust that everybody's going to bid an appropriate price and they know what it's worth, you put a reserve on there. So you say, you know, this thing's worth $500, and so I'm hoping to get $400 out of it. And so you put a reserve of $400 so that you don't get ripped off and sell it for 32 cents. That's why you put a reserve on things. The second thing in there, if you've looked on there, is called buy it now. Buy it now. Now, that's the aspect of eBay where you can forget all the bidding and you can just go there and buy it now. If you're not wanting to do the bidding process and be patient and see what you might could get it for, you literally could just buy it now. Now, you pay more when you do that. So you're basically saying, look, I don't want to wait. I'm going to buy it now, and I know it's going to cost me more to do it. And so you can buy something on eBay and buy it now. And the other thing is you can add to cart. You could go in there and add it to your cart. Cha-ching. The guy on the other line, he gets excited when you add something to the cart. And so we do that, and they make it an easy process for you to buy something. It's real simple to do it. It's real simple to bid. They make it convenient. They make it so they want you to be on their website. They want you putting stuff on their website to be sold. But that website, as well as a lot of other websites, a lot of other things, give us sort of an insight to who we are as a people. Who we are as individuals, who we are as families, who we are as a nation. In fact, I sort of call us the microwave generation because we want everything faster than we ever had it before. You know, the microwave replaced, I know it's hard to believe this, replaced sort of the stovetop, right? And before we start getting critical of anybody, the stovetop replaced setting out and cooking it over an open fire, okay? So it's sort of how we've graduated. But now you don't have to wait 15 minutes to make macaroni and cheese. You don't have to dirty up a pot to make some mac and cheese. You just throw some water in this little container that they sell it in, and you pop it in a microwave, and almost instantly you can have mac and cheese. The internet, you think about it, we have to have Wi-Fi because I don't want to have to sit one place in front of my computer. I want to be able to sit in my bed or sit on my couch or out on my back porch. I don't want to have to sit in front of a computer to get on the internet. And then we have to have broadband internet, right? Because we don't want to listen to every time we try to get on there. It reminds me of the Goat Boy on Saturday Night Live. Maybe you've never seen it, but every time I hear that, I just think, but we don't want to hear that, do we? We don't want to have to put up with that. So what do? We get broadband, fast internet, Wi-Fi, so I can sit on my toilet and get on the internet. That's the kind of generation we live in. That's the kind of world that we live in. We want it quick. We want it fast. We want it now. We could go out with a card. This is a shell card, so don't get too excited. We can go out with a card, and we've just bought whatever. And in fact, I learned this not long ago. If your purchase isn't over a certain amount, you don't even have to sign anything. You know, you go somewhere and, I don't know, McDonald's is $12. They don't even make you sign anything to get it. And then you walk out. And 15 to 45 days later, you get a bill in the mail or you get a bank statement that says, oh, and by the way, you've swiped this many times this month and this amount of money of yours is gone. That's just sort of how our community, how our world has progressed and how we handle a lot. We want it fast. We want it now. We want it convenient. And all of those things sort of play different roles. In fact, I was looking this up this week, some statistics. Now get this, in 2006, this is where we've come in 6 years. In 2006, we spent as a country $51 billion on fast food. Now I want you to keep that, $51 billion in 2006. In 2012, you know how much we spent? $168 billion on fast food. Tripled the amount in just 6 years that we spend on fast food. Now, I did not spend all $168 billion, but I'm sure I've spent a load. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, they're building a Taco Bell by our house. I'm just invest in Taco Bell. There's going to be a market surge when they open the store up. Austin said, Dad, you're going to go in there the very first day. I said, yeah, I'm going to go introduce myself to the management. I'm like, we need to get to be friends because you're going to see me a lot here. So I'm just, this isn't insider trading. This is outsider trading. Buy Taco Bell. Get your hands on some Taco Bell stock. I'm just warning you. But we spend a ton of money on fast food. Why? We want it quick. We want it convenient. And we'll even pay a little bit more so we don't have to go home and cook that same meal. Last year, there were 2.3 million foreclosures of homes in our country. 2.3 million different homes, different families, different people whose homes were foreclosed in. Here's one, the average consumer, you and I are consumers. The average consumer has 4 credit cards. 4 credit cards. And this next statistics, I'm not sure how this is even possible, but I'm sure it is. 10% of consumers, 10% of the people in our country who buy stuff have over 10 credit cards. Wow. I've tried to figure out how do you have over 10, but 10% of the people do. The average credit card debt in our country is $15,000 per household. $15,000 per household. So you see, we're a society. We want it fast. We want it quick. We want it conveniently. We don't want to have to worry about how much we've spent. So we just swipe. We just go, and then we get these statements, and then we try to juggle credit card statements. We try to juggle phone calls. I have lived in that world. I know what it's like to get the creditor calling your house. I can remember, the payment's in the mail. I can remember I lived in that world for quite a few years, and I can remember the stress that it brought on me, and on my marriage, and on my family even. And that brings me back to the top 2 questions that we've been asking this whole series. What are you passionate about? And will it matter for eternity? What are you passionate about in your life? And will it matter for eternity? Well, Jesus was preaching a famous thing known as his Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6, and he gives us some insight to what you're passionate about. He says, Matthew 6:19, it says, "Do not store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal." And here's the insight. Here's what he says. He says, "Where your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be." Where your treasure is. If you don't know how to answer, what am I passionate about? I could tell you, what you spend your money on is what you're passionate about. That new fishing rod and reel. Okay? You like fishing. I don't like fishing. Guess what? I don't have a rod and reel. That gadget that you want. That thing that you think you need. What you spend your money on are those things that you're passionate about. And it says there in Matthew 6, and he says in 19, don't go out and store up all your treasures here on earth. Matt Chandler has a great phrase. I love it. He says, everything you own is the stuff of future garage sales, yard sales, and junkyards. Think about that. Everything you own. I've got some coats hanging up in my closet that I had when I was a lot younger and a lot skinnier. Guess what? Yard sale, thrift store, somewhere. They ain't going on this body again. Unless I'm trying to do a skit about the Hulk and I just rip it or whatever. But that's that you figure out. What is important to you? Is it those new shoes? Is it those new outfits? Is it those hobbies that you have? Where your treasure is where your heart is. Your heart follows your treasure. And you can't deny it, and you can't run away from it, and you can't play it off as if it isn't true. Verse 24, Jesus says, no one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one, despise the other. Then he says here, you cannot serve both God and money. Isn't it interesting there in that verse? There's a whole lot of other words he could have put in there besides money. And I'll be honest with you, had he done it, it'd make it a whole lot easier on us today. You know? But he says you cannot serve both God and money. Well, when you live in a nation of foreclosure, you live in a nation of debt, you live in a nation of personal household income debt, what has happened is money has become a master over you. Instead of you mastering your money, the money has become to master you. And what he is saying there is you cannot be fully devoted to God and be fully devoted to your credit cards, to your treasures, to those things you want to buy, those things you want to have, those things you don't want to be patient enough to save up for and get, and so you just go out and grab it and get it and buy it and all of that. And so what are you passionate about? Well, just look at where you're spending your money and ask yourself, will it matter for eternity? Will it matter for eternity? So the question today is, will your finances impact eternity? No matter, the cool thing about this message is, it doesn't matter if your finances are small or if your finances are large. But each of us has an opportunity and even a responsibility and a chance to take what funds we have and use them in such a way that will impact eternity. Now, if you have a bulletin, there's a place we've been writing down some notes, and you may want to write down these 3 points I'm going to make real quickly about our finances and impact in eternity. The first thing you have to do is you have to decide whether you're going to focus on eternity or if you're going to focus on the temporal. You have to decide, am I going to store up treasures in heaven or am I going to store up treasures here on earth? Is it important for me to get and consume and gather up the things that is going to someday be in somebody's yard sale, somebody's junkyard, somebody's thrift store? Is it important for me to gather those things up, or is it important for me to have an eternal aspect when I look at stuff? When I look out, when I get a paycheck, is it important? How can I look at eternity for that? Most of us live in a world of stuff. And George Carlin used to do this bit long time ago about stuff. And I thought about showing it, but the language was horrible. And so, but the issue of it is this, that we all live in stuff. And you know what happens is, I look at my neighbor's stuff and he has more stuff than I do. So I go out and I buy more stuff. And then my neighbor looks back across the street and he sees my stuff and he says, well, he got some more stuff. I think I need to go buy some more stuff. And then before I know it, the stuff I first had is outdated, so I get rid of that stuff so I can get some more stuff. And then my neighbor looks back across the street and goes, I wish I had some of his stuff. So I have a yard sale. He comes over, he buys some of my stuff. Now my stuff is his stuff. We live in a world of that. We live in a world of accumulating and getting the stuff. And so we focus so much on the temporal. We focus on so much the stuff that is of today. Now, granted, I'm glad we all have focused on some clothes. I'm glad everybody's not here today naked. I'm glad we have focused some of our time and attention on some of the temporal things as far as some clothing and housing and an automobile and a way to get around. And we focus some on that. But too many of us are consumed by that. And see, there's a difference in living a life where you realize your needs are met and you are content in your needs versus realizing your needs are met but your wants are not, and so you go out and you put yourself in a bad financial spot, a bad financial situation. Why? To get some stuff. So you have to decide, and it's a personal decision, even for those of you teenagers that are younger and maybe college-age kids. Guess what? It's not even a decision your parents can make for you. You have to decide for yourself of whether you're going to look at your finances from an eternal perspective or from a temporal perspective. Now, I'm going to give you 2 clues if you were to choose to look at your finances from an eternal perspective. If you look at your finances from an eternal perspective, you're going to do 2 things. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to begin to live debt-free. Live debt-free. Now see, for most of us today, when we hear that, we just say, no way. Not possible. Some of us would say, I wish I would have heard this message 10 years ago. I wish I would have heard this message when I was 18. I wish I would have heard this a long time ago. But now, Rick, I'm 40. I've got 10 credit cards. I'm juggling all around. I'm just doing what I got to do to make it last. But if you're going to choose to look at your finances from an eternal perspective, what can I do with my finances that will matter for eternity? The one decision you're going to have to make is to live debt-free or work towards being debt-free. And that's not an easy decision to make, especially if you've already started under the gun. If you've already started behind the 8 ball, your heart may be saying, I want to do that. But then you're going to go home today and look at your checkbook and realize you got to write a check to that credit card company and a check to that credit card company and a check to that. And you're going to realize, in my heart, I would love to do that, Rick, but that's just not physically possible. That's what some of you are going to say today. But if you're going to look at your finances, again, large or small, from an eternal perspective, one of the things you're going to do in your life is to begin to live debt-free. What if I told you I had a formula? And by the way, I do. Where I can make you a millionaire. I have a friend of mine, Dennis Hooper. He is sort of, genius, I guess, in a lot of ways. He's just a friend of mine. He lives in Atlanta now. But he has a formula where by the time you are 65 years old, you can be a millionaire. Now, there's 2 conditions to make that happen. One, you have to begin the process when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, in that age range. 2, you have to live debt-free, other than maybe a home and a mortgage, but you don't get credit cards and things that have high interest payments. You don't consume that stuff. And every month you put some money in savings. And here's what's pretty incredible about it. I wouldn't have believed it, except he has it out on a piece of paper. It isn't like you have to put all your paycheck in savings to make that happen. But you have to start early. You have to be disciplined for about 50 years. And you have to live debt-free during that time, but it'll make you a millionaire. So if I said, I can make you a millionaire, a lot of people would go, yeah, I'll take that. But I'm not putting in 50 years and the discipline to say no when I want to go buy that thing. And we don't want to make the sacrifices to make that happen. But when you begin to look at your finances from an eternal perspective, you realize that one of the things you're going to have to do is live debt-free. Listen to Romans chapter 13. It says, give to everyone what you owe them. Pay your taxes and government fees to those who collect them, and give respect and honor to those who are in authority. You see, God tells us, Paul tells us here, to pay what we owe. There is a moral, even a Christian responsibility to pay the debts that we owe and to work towards that in our lives. I know what it's like to be behind the 8 ball trying to dig out of the hole. I have lived in that life. I have lived in that stress. I have lived with sitting there with 2 and 3 bills going, all right, which one of you bad boys gets paid this month? Who can I put off for 10 days? I can pay a little bit on this. I can pay a little bit. I have lived in that world. And when you do that, you know what you do? You have to focus just on today. You're just focused. I can't look a month down the road, Rick. I've just got to look today because I've got these 4 bills sitting in front of me. I've got $100 and $125 in payments. I can't look eternally. I can't ask myself what's going to matter to the world. What's going to matter in the existence of time? What's going to matter in eternity? We get this debt. And it brings with it a lot of things that we don't see when I wrote some things down here. It brings with us finance charges, right? I mean, they're going to charge you something. It's incredible to me that somebody doesn't trust me enough just to let me borrow their money and let me pay it back interest free. But they're going to charge us something. And here's a statistic for you, and I may get this wrong, and Matt and Jessica can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of the statistics is this. You know when you go out and you get that interest-free thing? No interest for 6 months, no interest for 12 months. I think it's like 47% of the time when you go get that no interest thing, you don't pay it off in time. And so guess what? Interest kicks in. 47%, almost half the time when we say, I'm going to go get this and I'll pay it off in 6 months. And so they won't charge me any interest, same as cash. 47%, half the time when we do that, we end up paying the interest on it as well. Because we don't pay it off in that allotted time. It brings with it long payoff terms. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you get your credit card statement, it'll say if you pay the minimum payment, you will be able to pay this off in 52 years and 15 months. I mean, it's just crazy numbers like that. It's like, if you'll just make the minimum payment, which is fine with us, is what they're saying, then you will have it paid off in, 47 years and 8 months. And in my mind, I'm going, okay, so Austin gets to pay it off, not a big deal. That's all working out pretty good on my end. Now, Austin and Blake are sort of screwed on it, but I mean, that's what it says. It brings with us these long payoff terms. Hey, it's just a little bit of money. Here's probably the biggest one. It brings with it stress. It does. When we get in bad financial shape, when we get in bad debt, it brings stress. In fact, one of the top 3 reasons people get divorced: finances. Battling over money, arguing over the debt. Arguing who's, the wife don't want to be sitting at home, the husband went out and charged all this stuff, but who gets the phone call? The wife gets the phone call from the creditor. It brings with it a stress level that will rip apart marriages. And it really does. It really does bring with this huge stress. Phone calls from the collectors. Arguments. Even so much that sometimes it brings hopelessness to people. There are people who say, there's just no way I'll ever get out. They're hopeless. There's just no way I'll ever be able to pay it off. And I've known a lot of great people that in their heart, they're burning to do it right. They're burning, I want to get out of this hole, but they're hopeless. And they say, there's just no way that I can do that. But when you begin to look with eternal eyes at your finances, you realize one of the things you have to work towards or do is live debt free. The other thing you have to do is live with margin in your life. Most of us do not live with any margin in our life. Most of us do not have any gap for any error in our life financially. Most of us live, and we've said this for ages, most of us live paycheck to paycheck. If something were to happen and that next paycheck not come in, many of us statistically would be sunk in 1 month, in 30 days. Some of these people that had their homes foreclosed on, it wasn't like they didn't pay their bill for 3 years. It was like they didn't pay it for a couple of months. And so we have to live with some margin in our life. We have to live with some gap in our life. And here's 3 little clues I have. I don't even think it's up there, but here's some clues about whether or not you're living with margin. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Does part of my monthly paychecks go into savings? Now, I know there's a lot of teachers in here and some government people, and so you all get paid one time a month, usually at the end of the month, and so you have to space things out. Some of us get paid every other week. Some of you get paid weekly. And so I'm not saying does part of every paycheck go into savings, but over the course of a month, does part of your money every month go into savings? And some of us would say, well, I can't do that, then I couldn't pay my bills. You're not living with any margin. When you have margin, you're able to take that margin of your finances and put it into a savings account, to put it in an emergency fund, to put it in a vacation fund, a Christmas fund. You're able to put some money aside when you live with margin in your life. Here's a good question. I thought of this, and boy, this was a good one. Do you have money in your pocket before payday? You know, a lot of us show up at payday broke. Like, we're like, can I get my check by 9:30 because I got some payments I got to make by 10? We just do. But when you live with margin, it may be $5, it may be $10, but on payday you have had some margin. You've had some gap, some buffer so that you have some money in your pocket. Here's the third question. Are you able to give spontaneously to others or to other ministries or to other causes? What if today we said it's Sanctity of Human Life Day, and there's this great organization in Warner Robins, and we want to help them, and we want to bless them, and so we're going to take up a special offering today only. We're going to take up a special offering to help this organization that counsels women and uses ultrasounds and shows them and protects babies' lives and all that. We're going to do that today. We're going to take up an offering today to do that. For some of us, our heart would break. Our heart would go, yes, I want to do it. But we couldn't do it because our finances have no margin. If I were to give to that, then I've just taken something that I was going to pay on a bill. But see, when you begin to look at your finances with an eternal perspective, with something that will matter for eternity, and I'll be honest with you, those babies that will be saved by that clinic will matter for eternity. That is something. The people who can be rescued from sex slavery and sex trafficking, that matters for eternity. The orphans and the widows that can be cared for, that matters for eternity. But when you have no margin, you have no opportunity to give spontaneously. And I've talked with people and been one of those people that have sat there and said, oh, I wish I could, but I just can't. And the reason I couldn't is because I was just looking at today, and I was just looking at getting my stuff, and I just got, in a lot of cases, and again, a lot of times we get behind the 8 ball. And so we're trying to dig out of the hole that we've already dug. We're like, a lot of us would say, if I could do over and start on flat ground, I wouldn't dig that same hole. But see, it's a hard, we sing that song Inside Out. Your finances is an inside out issue. Your finances and how you handle your finances, it's a heart thing. And I've talked with a lot of people who go, if I get my finances straight, then I'll do it right. I'll give God His 10%, and I'll give some other causes, and I'm going to help support this. When I get it all straight on the outside, then I'll get it all worked. No, you get it worked out on the inside. You get it straight on the inside and begin the process of restoration and restoring your finances to solid ground. And then you're able to do what you need to do. I've talked with tons of people. I've talked with a lot of people who say, I'm not giving. I know I'm not giving. I know it's wrong, but I just can't. I mean, A, for honesty. But we've got to make some changes if that's where we're living. If that's where we're at, we need to change some things in our lives. So are you able to give spontaneously? I had found out about something at Christmas time. And I mean, it was just sort of a spur of the moment type of thing, and someone talked to me about it, and so I talked to Monica, and I'm like, well, let's help this person out a little bit. It wasn't a big church promotion, it wasn't a big church campaign, it wasn't a big it wasn't advertised, it wasn't publicized, it was just sort of like there was a need, and can we help? We could only help because we had some margin. And granted, I hope you understand, I'm not talking about I have this great margin. Okay? But when you can begin to have some margin in your finances, you're able to meet some needs of folks like that. Instead of hearing their story and your heart breaking, wishing you could, and you just can't. So the question today is, are you going to look at your finances from an eternal perspective or from a temporal perspective? Are you going to begin to change your heart on the inside to focus on how you spend your money and focus on how will this impact eternity? Next week, we're talking about missions, and I'm going to lay out for you several missions things that our church are going to do throughout the course of this year. I hope you'll be here. I'm really excited about it. But you know what? For some of us to do that, for some of us to go to Honduras, for some of us to be part of that, some of us to be part of that project, for some of us to help with the medical clinic, you know what we've got to do? We've got to begin to build some margin in our finances. So it's an inside issue. It's a heart issue. It's a heart commitment on our part to then affect eternity with our finances. Let me encourage you to do a couple of things. One, I'd like for you to write down in your bulletin there some ministry, some opportunity that you would like to help finance this year in 2013. You just think about that. And it might be the Vine Church. You may say, I want to be part of the Vine Church. I want to be able to help support what they're doing. I want to be able to help support a mission team that they have. I want to be able to help support. So it could be that, but it could be Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You know, our church helps support Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So it could be a ministry like that. It could be this ministry up in Warner Robins that you saw earlier. It could be whatever, but it could be, but write it down, because here's what I'm going to tell you. If you never write it down, I can almost guarantee you it will not happen in 2013. But if you will write it down, hey, I want to help out Care Ministries. I want to help out Abba House is here today. I want to help out Abba House this year financially. I want to help out Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I want to help out the Vine Church. You write that down, and you'll remember it. And you'll begin to remember it. The second thing I want to encourage you to do is to maybe make a commitment to take our Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University course in February. I'm going to explain a little bit about it, but I made an attempt to make a promo video for it. It's very archaic, okay? It's very 1979-ish, okay, in how I made it and how it was done. But we had a group of people who took the class. And so, because I know I could stand up here and talk about it, and you go, yeah, Rick, I hear you talking. You're the preacher. You're supposed to say all that. I wanted you to hear from some of the people who took the class. So I made some videos, spliced them together, and so we're going to try to show you this video. Again, it's very archaic, okay? Rick did it, so, you know, if it stinks, you know.
About it at first, but then I realized that it's practical, simple steps that you can take to make your life better.
Going into it initially, I was kind of feeling the same way. I wasn't really into it, didn't really want to do it. But then once we went through the course and saw, you know, what it was all about, we couldn't wait to teach this course. And this time I went into it just feeling excited and ready for everyone else to get to experience and learn the things that we've learned just in the short time that we've been changing things, and so really just more excited than anything this time.
I was excited, but also a little worrisome, just because I think finances are just one of those things that, you know, most couples and families have issues with or concerns about, and so I think going into it I was excited, but at the same time a little, you know, nervous about, you know, what am I going to find out about what we already do financially.
And I think for me and kind of for us, it was, it was kind of a program that we had heard about. It was something that, we had heard that the Hunts had already done it, and Matt had already told me a few things about it. And from everything he was telling me, it was always something positive, something good. And I think for us, especially being, young, just got married, just kind of starting up, we just got a house and things like that, that anything that seems like it would help us financially, trying to get stuff squared away and get things paid off, even if it was just a little bit, it would be something good. It would definitely be something worthwhile.
Well, I think we both agree that our initial thought was, well, we'll just do it for the fellowship and to get to know better the people our age in our church, because fortunately for us, we grew up with responsible parents, and we had kind of a good we thought anyway we had a good basis financially, and a good budget and all that good stuff. So initially, before the class started, I think we both say, I'm not going to just speak for you unless you just want me to, but it was more just a fellowship thing. Really wasn't expecting much out of it as far as new information.
Like when I first started the class, my parents had done the class at a different church before we had it. So I kind of knew the process, and I had seen it in our family. So I thought it would be a good idea to do it because I'm still in college and I haven't started paying bills or getting credit cards, so I could kind of start my life on the right track financially.
When the darkness falls.
I think for us, it's going to be building that emergency fund, because right now, if something happened, I don't know that we'd be ready for it, but Dave teaches to build an emergency fund, and anytime something happens, you're going to be covered.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, and I really enjoyed spending cash, just spending cash, because when we were using our debit card, it's so easy to swipe your card, and then you don't realize, and I'd miss a receipt and wouldn't write it down, and he'd miss a receipt and forget to give me one, and so then I'd be off and get frustrated, and now we don't have that frustration because we pay cash for everything. Like what we spend every day and for our groceries and stuff like that. So that's been probably my favorite and best thing that I've taken away from it is managing it better. It's easier to manage and not overspend. Get to the end of the month and go, where am I going to go? Kind of a thing. So
Using cash, there's more of a connect. There's more pain when you use cash than swiping that debit card.
I think the one thing I pulled out was the college funds, like providing for your kids, like as they grow up. That was something that just struck me different being a parent now. Preparing now for the future, which is like 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem as crazy.
I think that was cool, and then also for me the investments and stuff. The first thing, actually, the first couple of days were what hit me the most, because budgeting is not my forte. I'm not good at it, but Krista is incredible with budgeting, and we'd already kind of developed a budget before going into it, and so that was helpful. But for me, like the first couple weeks of actually breaking down what it means to actually do a budget, that was awesome, and so that was one of the things I pulled away from the whole thing, and it happened in the first couple weeks. But also just the investments, like how much time and meaning goes into what you choose to invest your money in.
As you guys,
I just learned that it's really important to stay on track with your bills, with not starting credit cards. There's not really a need to, and just having a budget really is like the main thing that I took away from it. Even if it's a really simple budget, every person can have one. I can have one as a single person, or you can use one as a family.
Well, to tell you the truth, from the very first episode, from the very first time we got together. I learned a lot, and Marissa learned a lot, and the thing that really prompted us as a couple was the communication aspect. For the most part, I had been doing all the budgeting, and Marissa, who has been an amazing wife and an amazing individual in this relationship, and pretty much just says, hey, what do we got? What do I have as far as this goes? She doesn't just go out and spend a bunch of money or anything like that. She communicates with me on I guess the amounts, what she needs and what we have available. But as we got into the meat and the heart of things, we realized that our communication lines weren't as open as we thought. And, even though she knew some of the, I guess, amounts, she didn't know exactly where each penny was going, where everything was allocated to. And we would find ourselves in kind of a bind in certain situations, and she would be confused, not mad, but confused because she didn't know exactly what had happened to the paycheck that we just got last week. So that convicted us, and we have a better form of communication now due to Financial University's prompting.
I think what was really exciting to me was just thinking about the fact that how real being out of debt in just a few years could be. I never thought about, being out of debt in a few years as a possibility. But now, within 2-3 years, we could be completely out of debt, which is very exciting.
And I think for me, it was one of the first lessons, because we kind of got into it late. The life group that kind of started a few weeks ago, but by the time we got into it, one of the first lessons I really remember was he was talking about just the power of cash, and how and I'm sure we can definitely relate to it. I know I can relate to it, how easy it is just to swipe the card and not think about the money that you're spending. If it's $20 here, $45 here, or wherever, going out shopping or whatever, going out to eat, and just trying to hand them a card is just like nothing, because you know that the money's there, but you don't see that money leaving that bank account. I know for us, both being teachers, we both get paid at the same time, and it's only once a month. And it seemed like every month we were always looking and like, oh man, we can't really do anything this week. We got to wait to get paid. We don't have any money. Where did all that money go? I don't remember us doing anything special. Why are we short of money? And like one of the first things I remember, and I can't remember the stat, but it was like 47% of people spend less money if they use cash, or it was something related to that, and it really spoke to me, because I know if I got $20 in my wallet, I'm gonna do everything I can to hang on to that money. Or whatever I buy, it's only gonna be $4 or $5 at a time, because I always want to make sure I got just a little bit of cash. And but if I'm just trying to put $20 on my debit card, it's just $20. I don't see it. I'm not losing anything from it. And I think after doing that, and then after going through the program and hearing how to put your budget together and using nothing but cash, we've been doing it for probably 3 or 4 months now, and it's worked so much better, so much in terms of, we actually see how much money we have left in our budget. If we got $60 left, there's only we got 2 weeks left till we get paid again. We can do everything we can to hang on to that $60, and it kind of really puts a value on how important it is going out to go get this new T-shirt. How important is going out to eat at night, for fast food. And it kind of puts that value on it, and you start to learn, wow, that's where all of your money's going every month. It's always just pretty much disappearing because you don't see it. It's gone.
And it also helps us save, because we like to eat out a lot, and we only have so much money to do that. So once that envelope runs out, we can't spend more money to eat out. So that saves other money that we would have spent just using a debit card. We know we can't spend anymore.
You are holy, God of glory, we bless your name.
to make your wedding video. I get it. I understand. But hopefully you get the point of it. There is a program out there. And here's what I'm trying to say. In your heart, if you decide, I really need to do that. You know, some of us would sit here today and go, you know what? My money will not make an impact for eternity. I may help Ralph Lauren set up a trust fund for his kids. I may help Taco Bell set up a trust fund for their kids. But I'm not setting up anything for eternity. I'm not storing up any treasures in heaven because of how I handle my finances. What I want you to know is there's a program out there to help you change that answer. And it's Financial Peace University. Matt and Jessica Hunt teach it. We're going to be doing it in February. We'll start after that February holiday. And here's how it works. Here's how much I believe in it. The course costs $90 to take. Now, and I asked one of the couples this. I didn't put it on the video, but I asked them. I said, did you ask yourself, why am I paying $90 to take a class when I don't have any money to that's why I'm taking the class? You know, did that seem like odd to you or whatever? And they were pretty cool with it. But the point was this, and you say, well, I'm in financial straits. How can I do that? I don't have the money to do it. Here's how much I believe in it. You pay the $90 to take the class. If you complete the class, our church pays half of your money back to you. There is not a church around. In fact, the Financial Peace people say, you're crazy. Southside Baptist Church does it for thousands of people. And I told the guy who leads that we were doing it, and he's like, I don't know about that. And so you need to make that commitment. You've got 6 or 7 weeks to come up. In fact, here's how we'll do it. You write us 2 checks. You write us one check for $45, and you write us a second check for $45. We'll never put that other $45 in your bank. We'll hand it right back to you if you complete the course. That's how much I believe into it. I've put our church's money into it to help you. But see, it all comes back to your decision in your heart. God has to change you from the inside out before you will change the outside in. And so that's a commitment you can make today. One of the great things about our church is our church budget. We have a lot of people who support our church and give to our church, and most of them are sitting right here in this room. There are a few people that still support us other places, but most of them are sitting in this room, and people come every week and you give your tithes and you give your offerings. And so one of the things we want to do is present to you our 2013 budget. I'm just going to good-looking guy on the right over here is handing some of those out. Yeah, man, you're handsome. Who's your daddy? Oh, me. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. But they're handing out our 2013 budget, and we want you to see it. The process is this. Our ministry leaders gather together what they think they're going to need to help support their ministries, our nursery, our preschool, our children, our youth, hospitality, greeter, all of those different ministries. They put that together, our medical clinic. And then they present that, and the treasurer, who is Dennis, myself, and Jason, who's our administrator, over here on the left passing those out. We sort of compile all those numbers. We throw in the stuff that's always regular all the time, like our utilities, our phone bill, our internet bill, that kind of stuff. And then it sort of spits out a number. And sometimes those numbers really stretch us. I know last year, the number that it spit out was a lot larger than we had taken in the year before. And to be honest with you, that really scared me. But I will tell you that at the end of December, we had actually taken in that amount of money. And I mean, that was just so, wow, like, you know, over my head. But I just want to point out a few things to you in here that may jump out to you, and I want to let you just know where those go. Line number 62450, discipleship. You see $900. That's where the money is to help support this Financial Peace University. That's where that money is setting, so that when you sign up to take the class and you complete the class, we can help you by giving you